Hey guys, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of having a bit of a stalker situation, which is great because I can finally use a script I found lying around in a box called Don't Open. There's an evil spirit who will stalk you if you open it. I don't know what that means, but it's a script about stalker enemies. So why don't we take a look at that while I get actively stalked? Stalker enemies are one of the best archetypes in gaming. Now you may be wondering, what is a stalker enemy? And like, come on dude, I'm hiding from a stalker right now. But stalker enemies are a type of enemy archetype primarily found in horror games, but they can be found elsewhere, that follow the player relentlessly and never despawning, and your only choice is to usually hide. They're usually unkillable, will one-shot or nearly one-shot you, and their whole point is to apply pressure and force the player to use stealth, run away, stay on their feet, or, in Resident Evil's case, which is the most common, manage resources. I want to highlight some stalker enemies that do it super well, and a series that constantly messes up stalker enemies. The first stalker enemy we're gonna look at is one of the OGs, that being Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. That's right, all you Resident Evil nostalgia buffs can suck my goose dick. When we are introduced to our big boy, it is at a point where the player is feeling comfy at the RPD. You're strong, you're experienced, you got enough ammo to deal with anything, even liquors. And boom, local sex offender. And when you see this guy, your first thought is, rattle him, boys. But it doesn't work. So you run, and you hide. And that seems to work. He's definitely not aggroed on you anymore, but then you hear stomping and you hear the door burst open, and all of a sudden he's back. Now the game is forcing you to keep moving, to stay on your feet, and to not engage in fights with random zombies that are unnecessary. Where you might clear a room just for some quietness, you might actually leave the zombie so that way Mr. X doesn't hear you. And since he keeps beating the crap out of you anytime you try to fight back, the fear of RPD, the fear in Resident Evil, sinks back in. His design as a much larger and broader enemy compared to any other standard enemy also lends to how he adds to the atmospheric tension. Instead of some disfigured zombie or some crazed experiment, Mr. X just looks like a dude in a trench coat and fedora. His constant movement around every area, especially during the RPD segment, means you can never settle down anywhere. I mean, that library puzzle, I pretty much just was looping Mr. X while doing the puzzle, and it got very annoying. But that's the point. Sitting in a puzzle room, doing a puzzle? No. Mr. X is a core and important part of the fear in Resident Evil 2. The game would feel just empty without him. Mr. X does a phenomenal job at showing just how intimidating and stressful stalker enemies can be. He tiptoes the line of not ruining the experience, but sure as hell makes it way more stressful and way more annoying. He does have one big flaw, that being his narrative purpose. And I know the lore of like Umbrella dropped in the tyrants in Raccoon City during the outbreak to keep them a hush-hush about what they're doing. But in practice, he kind of just shows up, which means that you don't really have any attachment. He comes out of nowhere. So you're kind of just like, okay, who the hell is this guy? The next stalker enemy that we're gonna look at is one of the most iconic stalker enemies. It has some of the best narrative harmony in gaming history. That's right, we're talking about the iconic SAX from Metroid Fusion. Whew, man, I love the SAX so much. I just love that the SAX solves one of the biggest issues that are in long-running series, especially in Metroidvanias, which is, where'd all my stuff go? And not only do they solve it, but they take one step forward and they weaponize it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. See, in the story, Samus is doing her classic thing, helping out the Federation, doing her jobs, blah blah blah. And she gets infected with the new X parasite, which they find out has only one weakness, the Metroid. So they inject her with Metroid DNA, she heals, and she removes the Varia suit, or her, classic suit. That suit still has lingering X parasites, which completely take over the suit, forming the SAX. So now, we not only have the creation of the new stalker enemy, but it makes sense why we don't have any of our abilities. But they take it one step further, and they weaponize our own abilities against us. See, Metroid Fusion takes place right after Super Metroid, which at the end of that game, you're pretty much in God mode. You are undefeatable. And like, if you die, you're pretty much just trying to die by that point. So since the SAX now has that suit, we're fighting against our own abilities, our own skills and upgrades that we, the player, gained. It's really interesting because it also turns the table on the dynamic of the player and enemy. Where in most Metroid games, you're kind of just running around decimating everything, you now have this unstoppable wall that is made up of your own powers. I just love the way that they explain why we don't have any of our stuff, and the fact that they weaponize it. I think it's such a unique way to do it. Where the SAX does fall apart is just that most of its activity is scripted. You're not really going to actually encounter it just lumbering around the map randomly. I mean, you can, but it's typically mostly scripted, which means that some of the actual oomph of a Stalker enemy is kind of lost. But I honestly think if they remade Fusion and just made its Stalker elements a little bit better, we would have probably the best Stalker enemy. Whoever this Stalker is, dude, it's taking a long time to get here. I think I'm gonna order a pizza or something. COD has, for a while, kept trying to do Stalker enemies and zombies, with George Romero, the astronaut, and most recently, Oscar from Astra Malorum, alongside others, but I'm mainly gonna focus on these three since they help my point. I want to first point out the main reason that they fail, and that is that they try to be both a standard boss zombie, like a Panzer or Mangler, and also a Stalker enemy. For instance, let's look back at Mr. X. I know I do. But whenever he's a Stalker enemy, that's all he is. He's never a boss fight or anything. He's never something you're supposed to eliminate. You're only supposed to avoid him. But when the game turns him into a boss fight, he completely drops all of the parts of a Stalker enemy. He's vulnerable. He's now not some wall, but a fightable enemy. They never intersect unkillable Stalker and intimidating boss. But now let's look at Oscar. He's incredibly easy to avoid. You are supposed to kill him to not only make the wonder weapon, but for parts of the Easter egg. And he acts just like any other boss zombie. He just aggroes onto you and is pretty damn easy to kill. And that same struggle is with the astronaut. It doesn't take much to leave the astronaut alone. As long as you mind your surroundings, you can kind of just straight up avoid him. Or kill him. It's very easy. You can kill him like the first round you encounter him if you're good enough. The astronaut and Oscar don't feel like intimidating walls that add such incredible pressure that force you to move around, which would be awesome. Since most of the time you're either going to be camping or running around in one room, having an enemy that would force you to actually change up your location would be awesome. But they just fail at that. Oscar feels too much like a normal enemy, and the astronaut is too slow and too weak to really feel like an intimidating enemy either. However, George is too annoying. Stalker enemies are inherently annoying. I don't think that's anything people are going to disagree with. They're supposed to be a nuisance. They're supposed to make you kind of angry that they're ruining everything. But they never ruin the gameplay loop. They just make it more stressful. But George is just ruining Call of the Dead for me. The shock effect of his attacks make him way too annoying to avoid. Since he shocks and BO1 is a very demanding game, anytime you get shocked, there's like a 50% chance that's just it, you're gonna go down. So he's too annoying to leave alone. So where most Stalker enemies are gonna teeter the line of annoying and stressful, George just plows through it. He doesn't even become stressful anymore, he's just annoying. I just find it weird that COD struggles too much with Stalker enemies. Like, I feel like it'd be pretty easy for a mode like Zombies to do something that's an intimidating constant pressure. George is too annoying and too powerful, and it doesn't really feel like a balanced enemy. Instead, it feels way too annoying and way too bothersome. The astronaut, man, the astronaut's just a failure. And Oscar doesn't even feel like a Stalker enemy. Calling him a Stalker enemy even just feels weird. I wish I could talk more about some of my favorites, but I didn't go over because I wanted to be different, talk about Stalker enemies that aren't brought up much, except for Mr. X and SAX, so I guess I really just want to talk about Black Ops Stalker enemies. Anyways, let me hit this light on real quick, and I'll see you.
Gooseworth von Honkerton III. The astronaut is not that bad. You're just ass at COD, and you're a soy boy cuck.
What?
I swear to God, if I hear you talk bad about my Pookie Wookie astronaut, I am going to go ape shit on you. Do you understand? I mean, it's gonna be all
Just watch.